Now, when I think about the left hand part of the guitar, the fingerboard, I think of only three major chord families or minor chord families. I try and remember that the nut is doing some work for me. So that in an E chord, the nut is playing the sixth string, the second string, and the first string. When I move that E chord shape up one fret, I have to do the work the nut is doing by barring behind it, and I get an F. So I consider E and F to be the same family of chords. It's the same shape on the fingerboard. In the same way, I have a G chord, the open third string, all being fretted by the nut, 4, 3, and 2. The same shape, that A shape, has three notes on adjacent strings in the same fret, in the same way they are when you play a G. So I consider G and A to be the same. And as we move up from A, we've got the nut is playing three notes for us, right? Open, open, open. And as we move that up, we have to cover those three strings, but you can bar behind it or you can play fragments depending on where you are on the guitar. So we have this A shape here, or an A there, and you can see how that shape relates to a G chord, right? And then the last one is the C to D family, which is a C chord that looks like this if you left your index finger out, knowing that the nut is playing those two little notes behind on the first and third string, giving you that classic triangle shape of a D chord. So we have a, there we are with a full D chord with your little finger on a D here. It's like a C with a partial bar behind it, right? An E there. So we have these movable shapes, and you can leave strings open that are open in first position. So if we have a C shape here, and we change families, we change to the G or the A family, then A here, B flat, B, C there at the 5th fret. So the full bar chord would be like that. Or if you put a capo on the 3rd fret and played an A shape, you'd get a C sound, right? So we have this A shape, but we can leave the 1st and 3rd string open because they're open in first position. So this C chord could look like this, where we've taken an A shape and opened the first two strings. We could also make it a C7 by barring behind these two open, these two notes of the 5th fret. And we're going to pick up the high note here on the 3rd string. So it's 5, 0, 5, 3 from the 4th string up. So it's G, G, E, G. And we understand it as a C, especially if you start here. Or you can go up. Again, these are fragments of chords. You can do the same thing with an A7 chord. If we take an E7 shape here, apply the bar behind it, we're in the E or F family, F sharp, G7, G sharp, A7. Now we can open a lot of strings in A7. You can open 6, 5, open 3, open 1. So we could take this bar chord and reduce it to this and have an A7, a full A7. And we can add the 3rd to the chord by playing a fragment of this shape and just adding the C sharp. And this is like a D chord in first position, moved over one string in terms of muscle memory, and then run up 3 frets. And you get an A7 shape. But it's one muscle memory. And and it's something you probably already know how to play. You could also bar that with a partial bar up high. And there's a lot to be done there, understanding that there's a lot of ways to get an A7 chord. If we took a C7 chord and start moving it up the neck, we have a C shape here, C7, C sharp, a D7 at the 3rd fret, and an E7 at the 7th fret, and a G7 at the 10th fret. So this gives you a sense of how you can kind of think about the guitar shapes. And as we go through John Hurt's repertoire, we're going to tag some of these. But the key thing to remember is that E and F are essentially the same. C and D are related shapes. And G and A are related shapes. And that will really help you as you start to move around on the guitar. Change families down here and count your way up the chromatic scale until you wind up with the sound you want.